I want to make a statement here. These two don't know what I'm about to say, but they're more than welcome to add on to what I got to say here. And that is when I advertise, quote unquote advertise, because it's not really advertising. When I advertise that the podcast is up, that's merely what it is. An advertisement saying, hey guys, the podcast is up. You know, it's not a quote unquote view beg. It is not a quote unquote whine. I don't think we've ever done one podcast where the three of us have ever cried, like physically cried. At least not to my knowledge. I could be wrong. Um, and also,
No.
I was also looking through the like the spam comments on YouTube. I also want to address something else here. Me, Nick, and Shelby have been doing this podcast for I believe this is episode. If you add them all up, this is episode 61, I believe. There's a reason why we've done this 61 times in general is because we get along. Obviously, I guess you could say we like each other. So like when I say something like "God damn it, Shelby, you suck," I don't really mean "God damn it, Shelby, you suck." It's a fucking podcast, and we're having fun. You know, when Nick tells Shelby, "Pardon me, fuck you," he doesn't really mean "fuck you." We're having fun. It's a fucking podcast.
Right.
You know. So I just wanted to point that out there because some of the comments in the spam comments were just like, "Hey, Nick and Shelby seem great, but Artist seems like somebody who would punch a dog." And I'm just like, they do realize that like we don't really hate each other, correct? You know, and again, most of these comments were from accounts that were made like that week or that day, even. Which I mean, I really shouldn't be addressing them, but I just feel the need that it needs to be addressed. That like when we tear into each other. I mean, there have been a couple tense moments on the cast, when we review some things that we heavily disagree on. But like, shit, we come back the next week and we do it again. You know? So I just wanted to state that. If you two want to add anything, you can. If not, we can get on with the news.
Actually, so we're actually Shelby and I are going. We're going to a Saturday night's main event next month. So
See? There you go.
we don't
So
hate each other at all. Like I mean, it's just one of those
exactly.
things that microphones on, people listening, we have some fun.
Exactly. People are just like, oh, Shelby and Nick are great, but Artist seems like he fucking kicks puppies and shit. I'm just like, what? Like,
Wow, we can't defend whether you kick puppies.
well, yeah, that is true. But I mean, it's just the fact that this is the shit people come up with listening to a wrestling podcast, you know? And the final thing I want to mention on this is that, yeah, I did post on YouTube last week that, yeah, after 16 hours, we had only 8 views on the YouTube version, that is, of last week's episode. So, yeah, me, Shelby, and Nick, we did have to talk about maybe, is this worth our time? Like I asked Nick and Shelby, I was like, hey, if you two are having fun, then I'm not going to ruin the fun. If you two just feel like I'm holding a fucking gun to your head to be here, fucking tell me. We'll stop doing it. And their response is like, no, we have fun. I'm like, okay then. And again, somehow that translates to whining and view begging. So I don't understand how advertising the podcast gets to view begging. So, all right, with all that out of the way, let's get into the news here now. And